God, or G-A-O-T-U, the grand architect of the universe. And the seventh letter is Syriac Arabic, the KH, for creator Khaliqun, Okhanum, the ram-headed deity of the creation of humans. 9 is the source, the eye of Re or Ra. Also, the iota or the jot of the Bible, Matthew 5:18, is the Yod, which is the 10th letter of the Hebrew alphabet and represents the 10 of the original 613 commandments taken from the Egyptian negative confessions. In human beings, the essential polarity, which I have discussed in other books, has its axis along the spinal column, so that ether has its manifestation at the crown of the head, while matter at the setech, the root or kernel of the spine. Between these poles are stages of consciousness, each less or more denser than the preceding one, as the life force ascends up the spine in its involution from matter to mind. But you must know both points and mind, for all matter vibrates. One may compare this process of gradual densification with the vibratory effect which are produced in music from the string of an instrument. The deeper notes are produced as a result of the string vibrating more slowly and much thicker. And the bass string is at the top of the oud, which produces the deep notes. The oud. When the string of the instrument vibrates more quickly, it produces a higher screeching note that is at the bottom. They purposely reversed this to make you think that the deeper notes are at the bottom, when in fact they are at the top, the left-hand side. Blacks have deeper voices than whites. We start at the top to the bottom. On the piano, it is the same. The lower notes are at the left hand and the higher notes on the right. The human heart is on the left side, the seat of emotions. We tend to like warm sounds and deep, heavy voices because our voices vibrate. They have a screeching sound to their voice like howling wolves, which is why the Europeans like the high screeching sound of the guitar. They call it distortion. The higher and more screeching, the more they love it. Where there is no vibration, there is no friction or feeling. Thus no sound. If there is no friction, there is no spark to ignite a fire, which is why they have a lunar plexus and not a solar. They reverse the sound and tone by making you think that the higher the vibration or chakra is, the higher the sound is, and the lower the chakra, the denser it is. However, that is not true. The Hindus or Buddhas number their chakra seats from 7 ascending upwards to 1. However, that they are really numbered from 1 ascending up to 9, the highest point, the all. So it is also that The higher levels of our consciousness are the life force vibrating at high C, higher frequency, and the lower frequencies, low C, on the octave are the denser or more material levels of within ourselves. The 9 Arushads, chakras in human beings, excuse me, therefore corresponds to the 7-note musical scale or the octave. There are 8. From C to C is 8 notes. Then the final, which is all the notes as one sound together, is the 9th. The lower Arush chakra having a slower vibration, which the Hindus falsely correspond to the deeper notes of the scale, and the higher Arushad chakras to the higher notes, which the Hindus correspond to high C notes, the flute or screeching sound of the guitar. That's why they like the screeching guitar sound. In actuality, as the vibration of the chakras ascend, the more spiritual the person becomes, and matter begins to decompose back to the all, the Aum, which are all those notes as one, 9. Note that the Hindu Aum is not a high note. It is the first D in bass clef coming from middle C. The D note is 144 Hertz. If you own a large piano with 88 chords on it, then it would be the 18th white octave from the left. If you own a small piano, then it is the 9th white octave from the left. The triad note D, F sharp and A together makes the whole chord. This deep bass sound rises from the throat to the tip of the lips, flows to the center of the head, escaping from the ears, excuse me, and vibrates at the mirror. In vibration, the resonance of the bass sound is where life and energy is, to see the procreation. The sound becomes intense and prolonged because of the vibrational rate. This is where the friction or the source of life begins, at the the crown seat. When the male and the female comes together to produce a child, there is a friction in the sexual process between the seminal vesicle of the male and the uterus of the female. The sperm travels up the spine to the crown seat, where it receives its second spark of life. Friction causes vibrations, which produces a spark of life, because in order to travel upwards, it had to have life and a thought. So the sperm that is, lights up each seat as it passes them with soul on its way up to the crown seat. Ether. Just like if you was to strike a match, there would be a friction to get the fire started. This is the same process. In the scroll, the sacred wisdom of the Grand Hierophant Tehuti chapter 9, entitled Vibration, page 159, it states, nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates in the all, yet movement is not all. The great third Egyptian doctrine, the doctrine of vibration, embodies the truth that motion is manifest in everything in the universe, that nothing is at rest, that everything moves vibrates and circles. This Egyptian doctrine was recognized by the early Greek philosophers, who embodied it in their systems and gave birth to all of their thought of movement. But then for centuries, it was lost by the thinkers outside of the Egyptian ranks. But in this century, physical science rediscovered the truth, and the 21st century scientific discoveries have added additional proof of the correctness and truth of this centuries-old Egyptian doctrine. The Egyptian teachings are that not only is everything in constant movement and vibration, but that the difference between the various manifestations of the universal power are due entirely to the varying rates and mode of vibration. Not only this, but even the all in itself manifests a constant vibration of such an infinite degree of intensity and rapid motion that it may be practically considered as at rest. Even on the physical plane, a rapid moving object such as a revolving wheel seems to be at rest. The teachings are that to the effect that spirit is at one end of the pole of vibration, the other pole being certain extreme gross forms of matter. Between these two poles are millions upon millions of different rates and modes of vibration. Modern science has proven that all that we call matter and energy are but modes of vibratory motion, and some of the more advanced scientists are rapidly moving towards the position of the spiritualists, who hold that the phenomena of mind are likewise modes of vibration or motion. Let's see what the science has to say regarding the question of vibrations in matter and energy. In the first place, science teaches that all matter manifests in some degree the vibrations arising from temperature or heat, be an object cold or hot, but both being degrees of the same things. It manifests certain heat vibrations, and in that sense is in motion and vibration. Then all particles of matter are in circular movement from corpuscles to suns. The planets revolve around suns, and many of them revolve on their axis. The suns move around greater central points, and these move around still greater, and so on ad infinitum. The molecules of which the particular matter is composed are in a state of vibration and movement around each other and against each other. The molecules are composed of atoms which likewise are in a state of constant movement and vibration. The atoms are composed of corpuscles, sometimes called electrons, ions, onto quarks and zeros, which also are in a state of rapid motion, revolving around each other, and which manifest at a very rapid state and mode of vibration. And so we see that all forms of matter manifest vibration in accordance with the Egyptian doctrine of vibration, and so it is with the various forms of energy. Science teaches that light, heat, magnetism, and electricity are but forms of vibratory motion connected in the same way with and probably emanating from the ether. Science does not attempt to explain the nature of the phenomena known as cohesion, which is the doctrine of molecular attraction, a chemical affinity, which is the doctrine of atomic attraction. Nor they overstand gravitation, which was the greatest mystery of the three, which is the doctrine of attraction by which every particle or mass of matter is bound to every other particle or mass. They found that the lightest atom, hydrogen, was itself not the smallest thing in existence, but it was composed of smaller, even smaller things called quarks, even smaller zeals or zeeds. These three forms of energy are now overstood by science. The writers incline to the opinion that these two are manifestations of some form of vibratory energy, a fact which the Egyptians have held and taught for years. The universal ether, which is postulated by science without its nature being overstood clearly, is held by the Egyptians to be a higher manifestation of that which is erroneously called matter. That is to say, matter at a higher degree of vibration, and is called by them ethereal substance. The Egyptians teach that this ethereal substance is of extreme tenuity and elasticity and pervades universal space, serving as a medium of transmission of waves of vibratory energy such as heat, light, electricity, magnets, etc. The teachings are that the ethereal substance is a connecting link between forms of vibratory energy known as matter on the one hand, or energy or force on the other, and also that it manifests a degree of vibration in rate and mood entirely of its own. Scientists have offered an illustration of a rapidly moving wheel, top, or cylinder to show the effects of increased rates of vibration. The illustration supposes a wheel, top, or revolving cylinder running on a low rate of speed. We will call this revolving thing the object in following out the illustration. Let us suppose the object is moving slowly. It may be seen readily, but no sound of its movement reaches the ear. The speed is gradually increased. In a few moments, its movement becomes so rapid that a growl, a deep growl or low note can be heard. Then as the rate is increased, the note rises one in the musical scale. Then the motion still being further increased, the next highest note is distinguished. Then one after the other, all the notes of the musical scale appear, rising higher and higher as the motion is increased. Finally, the motions have reached a certain rate, the final note perceptible to the human ear is reached, and the shrill, piercing shriek dies away, and silence follows. No sound is heard from the revolving object, the rate of motion being so high that the human ear cannot register the vibrations. Then comes the perception of rising degrees of heat. Then after quite a time, this eye catches a glimpse of the object becoming a dull, dark, reddish color. As the rate increases, the red becomes brighter. Then as the speed is increased, the red melts into orange. Then the orange melts into yellow. Then follows successively the shades green, blue, indigo, and finally violet, as the rate of speed increases. Then the violet shades away and all color disappear, the human eye not being able to register them. But there are invisible rays emanating from the revolving object, the rays that are used in photographing and other subtle rays of light. Then begin to manifest the peculiar rays known as X-rays, etc. As the constitution of the object changes. Electricity and magnetism are emitted when the appropriate rate of vibration is attained. When the object reaches a certain rate of vibration, its molecules disintegrate and resolve themselves into the original elements or atoms. Then the atoms, following the doctrine of vibration, are separated into the countless corpuscles of which they are composed. And finally, even the corpuscles disappear, and the object may be said to be composed of ethereal substance, quarks or zeals. Science does not follow the illustration further, but Egyptians teach that if the vibrations are continually increased, the object would mount up the successive states of manifestation and would in turn manifest the various mental states. Then on spiritward until it would finally re-enter the all, which is absolute spirit with the power to create or grow matter out of itself. The object, however, would have ceased to be an object long before the stage of ethereal substance was reached. But otherwise, the illustration is correct inasmuch as the effect of constantly increased rates and modes of vibration, unquote. Are you paying attention, people? The master teacher could have easily said Baruch, the chakra or the seat, but he kept saying the object. The angel Melchizedek just showed us how to raise our vibrations to finally re-enter the all. So by the year 2002, we already had in our possession this knowledge and information, and if we have already been guided back to the all, towards what end is this new influx of information with all these new symbols and a new toneless Noahic with a Hindu-looking script? The Noahic language of tones was already complete by the year 2002 with lessons and audio, so you would know, recognize, and properly intonate the tones. These tones are A-E-O or R-E-U, you know, like Anuki, Fi, El Ashug, Shil, El Kulum, Wakul, Ashug, Izu, Fini. You can hear all three tones R-E-U just in this first verse of our affirmation given to us by the master teacher. These tones are also in the Nubian Taful ritual. And in our holy scripture, the holy tablets. These are the tones we need to raise our vibrations. More importantly, the AIN or the Aum tone. Anuki fi el ashuk shil el kulum Wakulashuk is fini. This iron principle can also be found in chanting El Quran in Ghana, where you vibrate the meme tone and activate the pineal and gland and the third eye. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم باسم الرب الخالق الكريم الحمد لله رب العالمين Anuki fi el ashuk shilal kulum. However, this new panacea, which was brought by the female messengers, is lacking these tones A, E, U, or A, E, O, or the ancient Egyptian order. Do you follow? In Holy Tablets chapter 10, tablet 1, verses 94 through 109, Anu Alun El himself forewarns us about the female living beings as these. These are Anu's words, people, and I quote. After he beguiled your mother, Nakebao, female living beings have been the most beautiful and the most dangerous among the creatures of the planet Earth. Her beauty and attractiveness allured male living beings and blinds selfish male living beings to higher and nobler things and inclines him to forget me. Alunel. It was such a seductive influence that was exercised by the charming Nakebao. She was an agreeable and virtuous female living being who was wholly devoted to me, and is a blessing to an agreeable male living being because she knows her position and keeps her proper place. Let me repeat. She was an agreeable and virtuous female living being who was wholly devoted to me, and is a blessing to an agreeable male living being because she knows her position and keeps her proper place. But he who yields to the influence of an ambitious and selfish female living being, he walks the path that leads to degradation and death. Are you listening, brothers? Almost all female living beings of your descendant are selfish, sensuous, and they walk in the path of vanity. Are you listening, brothers? Beautiful and graceful of form, yet filled up with pride. They have an excessive desire to be noticed and to be approved by male living beings. And they do all things to be seen by men. Hilal. Became my opponent and the enemy to all right knowledge. All right knowledge. Now he concluded that the time was opportune. He concluded that the time was opportune to make another move. He began his wicked schemes by using a female living being. Even now, he would continue speaking. He would continue to use female living beings for his nefarious purposes, unquote. So there you have it, people. So much for all your female messengers female elders, female rulers and lawyers. Halal sent them. So now, this blonde-headed, gold-digging hood rat is bringing us all these satanic verses and this new Hindu dialect and script, the language of the 200 fallen angelic beings. Holy Tablets chapter 1, tablet 14, verse 95 warns us, let not the sensitivity or the apparent weakness of the woman alter your state of consciousness. Stay in control. Verse 99 states, if a man responds to the whims of a woman or over-responds to the emotional changes of a woman, he too will overheat, transform into a lunatic, and be no more, unquote. See that? You will be no longer a man. More like a wimp whooped by a pussycat. Now let us return to the excerpt from the scroll entitled The Wisdom of Tehuti. Wisdom of the Grand Hierophant Tehuti. We are now on page 164. And it reads, it must be remembered in the above illustration that all the stages at which the object throws off vibrations of heat, light, etc., it is not actually resolved into those forms of energy which are much higher in the scale, but simply that it reaches a degree of vibration in which those forms of energy are liberated in a degree from the confining influences of its molecule, atom, and corpuscles, as the case may be, just as heat escapes the flames. These forms of energy, although much higher in the scale than matter, are imprisoned and confined in the material combinations by reason of the energies manifesting through and using natural forms, but thus becoming entangled and confined in their creations of natural forms, which to an extent is true to all creation. The creating force becomes involved in its creation, fire to heat, water to wet, ice to cold. But the Egyptian teachings go much further than those of modern science. They teach that all manifestation of thought, emotions, reason, will, or desire, or any mental state of condition are accompanied by vibrations